Believe it or not, my legal name is not Zimberly. In fact, my legal name is Kimberly. I was exclusively known as Kimberly until I was 18. Back when I was Kimberly, I was a different person. I was extremely clean in appearance only. My living quarters were not clean, but I never got detention. And even though I didn't really study, I made a show of being like a pretty good student and a pretty good kid. But I did have a secret dark side lurking. I was primed to have my evil twin pop out because, well, honestly, I had like a lot of childhood trauma, and I feel like that really lends itself to like just like having a dark descent into madness and having an evil twin. My first year of college, I was very determined not to let my evil twin come out. The cultural narrative is you're a quiet, good girl, you go to college and you go wild. And it was like, I didn't want the narrative to dictate my life. I decided I was going to dictate my own life, and I decided not to drink, not to do any drugs, not to experiment really too much. My first year of college, I spent pretty much every Friday and Saturday night alone, which was fine with me because I had made a few good friends in my hall. At the same time that I was making a few good friends with some girls in my hall, I was taking an introductory writing course called The Art of Walking. And I had this really nice lady as my professor. She was a German professor, but also she taught a first-year writing seminar within my college. I was not a participant in class. I would just show up. And I was not an office hours person. My like academic orientation is purely aesthetic. I have never been a studier. I've never been an office hours goer. I don't ask professors questions. I don't really care what they have to say. If I'm going to answer a question, I'm going to answer it with Google and honestly, probably with Reddit. I don't make the rules, okay? So me and my first year writing seminar professor, we didn't get close, but she knew me as Kimberly. Put a pin in that because it'll come back to haunt us later. The second semester of my freshman year of college comes around, and one of my two friends that I made in my hall transfers. And then my other friend that I made in that hall also was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna transfer to go to school with my boyfriend. And I was like, what the fuck? You're going to pick your boyfriend over me? Like, everyone knows that it's not going to work out. But, it didn't work on her. She was single-minded and whatever. 5 out of 6 of my closest friends my freshman year of college, they all were planning to leave. And I was like, wow, this is so bad. So I went home for spring break, and I was just like sitting on the couch, and I was like, yeah, I need to make a big change. And that change is I'm going to start drinking. I get back to school and I plan with one of my friends to go out drinking. We went out drinking for the first time to the rugby house. The next morning I woke up and like I was not hungover. I had maybe like 3 drinks, but I was like walking through the dining hall like I was 90s Kate Moss, like I was on a heroin bender. I was like, oh, I'm like so like cool, very edgy. Basically overnight, I transformed from being this like very straight edge girl who like never drank and showered every night and would never go to bed without brushing her teeth. And I transformed into Zimberly. I transformed into this like partying maniac. And at the time I was in this intensive language program. I was in French, intensive French. Every day we would go to what they called language lunch tables. You would get to know your classmates really well because you were supposed to go to language lunch 3 days a week. And because I was like very zealous about my language learning, I would go 5 days a week. And so like all of these people, you would go to language lunch and like you would talk in like very broken French about what you were doing this weekend and like who you are as a person. Up until that point, I had never said I was a partier, but then all of a sudden I started coming to language lunch and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go and party this weekend. And I realized for the first time how easy it is to transform your identity. It took like 1 week for me to go from being this like very goody two-shoes girl into like, oh, well, she's like a huge partier. This was just the beginning. I'm not Zimberly yet, okay? The summer after my freshman year of college was like the worst summer ever. I like went on study abroad and got in trouble for like blacking out on the side of a mountain. And they were like, yeah, you're never going to be allowed to study abroad again, which was a lie. I come home from this study abroad experience with my tail between my legs. I obviously did not tell my parents or like anyone about what happened, but the entire summer, I'm just like in my hometown, there's like no one to hang out with. My OCD comes back big time. It's like worse than before. I don't know how to handle it. And I'm just counting down the days until I can get back to school. And I'm like, I need to let off some steam. I need to party. So like all summer, I'm planning my big return to the party scene. So I get back to school and I start partying hard during welcome week. And because I'm trying to make new friends, I'm making friends with all these freshmen because they also have no friends. And I'm introducing myself as Zimberly because frankly, I just thought it was really funny that I could say that my name was something as ridiculous as Zimberly and people literally would believe me. Most of the time, people would be like, oh my God, that's such an interesting name. Like, where does it come from? And I, of course, would lie to them because I was in my evil twin era. And I was making friends with all of these freshmen, and some of which were in my hall. We called it the family, this like clique of people. During the course of this time that I knew the family, I start partying so hard. I party every weekend, twice a weekend. I go to so many parties. Every party that I'm invited to, I attend. I get so wasted. I burned some bridges that way. I definitely burned a bridge with my roommate who had been my friend up until this point. This one time, I like projectile vomited across the room when I was hungover. I was so hungover that I couldn't like fully clean it up. She was like, do you smell like vomit? And I was like, no, I don't think so. And then but it was vomit. It was vomit which was like crusted to the bottom of the trash can, which I didn't find until like months later. So like that was disgusting. And like she would just like have to deal with me in the middle of the night when I was coming home like blackout drunk. This one time she told me a story about when I like went to the door and I couldn't figure out how to open it because there was a mirror on the back of the door. I like ran into it and I was like, huh, a person. So like obviously there was like a lot happening. Psychologically, there's something seriously wrong with me. I was falling into a deep, deep depression. And like as I was spiraling downward, my grades were getting worse. I wasn't attending class as much. I used to have like really straight, silky hair, and I was like, this does not feel right anymore. So I started wearing my hair like this. This is a tame version of my hair. Like for years, I just like wouldn't brush my hair. It was like a look, and people were like, yeah, she's cool. She just does not give a fuck. Actually, I gave way too many fucks, and that's why I was like letting myself go like that. But I do like the messy hair look. I'm gonna be honest. I do like the messy hair look. I started wearing really avant-garde clothes. Like before, I had just been wearing like a skirt and a shirt. I don't know, maybe I would do like a little bit of accessorizing. Like I looked slightly offbeat, but I started wearing like 3 skirts at a time. I started wearing like very recognizable outfits, and I would wear the same outfit for like 7 days in a row, and it probably smelled so bad, honestly. But you know, I was just in that era. I had to get it out of my system. You would think that I would start to shape up after a few years, but no, by the time I was a senior in college, I was just even more extreme. I like had a secret pet rabbit named Grandfather. I was still going out every weekend. You know, I lived in a co-op. I staged a coup against my president. I had a hashtag not my president campaign. I was going all out, and I was not recognizable. When I was a freshman in college, I never would have had a hashtag not my president campaign for my house president. Like I just wouldn't. Maybe I would have thought about it, but I just like was not that person. And I wasn't a person who would openly stir the pot, but I became an agent of chaos. I'm still an agent. I'm still Zimberly. Second semester, senior year rolls in, and I have some extra credits. Like I have the vast majority of my credits taken care of, so I can just take a class for fun. And I was like, you know what? Because I love languages. I love to learn languages, and I'm really good at it, actually, which makes introductory language classes really fun because I'm extremely competitive. I'm like a terrible person. I'm so competitive. I will 100% of the time be the top student in that class. The like community aspect of like a language learning class, I love it. I love to laugh at people when they make mistakes, but I make it fun. I make it so that, I don't know, maybe there's plausible deniability that I'm laughing at them because I'm laughing with them. But no, I am laughing with them. I'm laughing with them. So I sign up for intensive German, and we come full circle. The woman who taught my first year writing seminar in my first semester of freshman year is teaching my intensive German class. Okay, also this is important to note. Over the course of the 4 years that I was in college, I started introducing myself as Zimberly to everyone. At first it was a joke, but then it became a way for me to distance myself from the past version of myself who had been kind of loserly and lame and didn't really know how to have fun. At first it was a joke, but then it was not a joke, and I would actually get annoyed with people who would be like, that's not your real name, I'm going to call you Kimberly. And I'd be like, well, okay, it's my preferred name and I'm not going to speak to you ever again, and you're also my nemesis. Like, I don't understand why I'm so fucking sweaty. It's like not warm out. But anyway, so it became a big enough deal for me that I found out that you can change your name in the school system, and and so I did. I did play around with this a little bit. For a while, my name in the school system was Peter Cottontail, just for a summer. Like, I had one summer class where I was Peter Cottontail. If you look up Peter Cottontail in the school system where I went to college, I will come up. Hopefully I'm not doxing myself, but whatever. Then after being Peter Cottontail for a little while, I did change my name to Zimberly in the school system. I also had like, you know, the like school cards that like have your face on it and they have your name on it. My name said I was named Zimberly. And so if anyone was ever like, that's not your name, I'd be like, actually, it is. So anytime I would go into a class, my professors would see that my name was Zimberly. And for all they knew, that was my legal name. So I walk into German class on the first day of the semester, and I sit down, and my German teacher is doing roll call before we really get into the German learning. So she comes to me and she's like, oh, like, I'm pretty sure I had your sisters in class with me. I only have one sister, but I thought she just misspoke, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure you have had my sister in class before. And she was like, oh, like what are they up to? And I was like, oh, well, you know, Sarah is getting her PhD, blah blah blah, like she's living in the UK, it's a whole thing. Then she's like, oh, okay, that's really nice. And what about Kimberly? And I was like, Kimberly? That's me. But I didn't say that. She assumed that my parents had 3 daughters who they named Sarah, Kimberly, and Zimberly. And she is such an earnest person, I just could not bear to tell her. So I was like, oh yeah, she's good. And then I was like, fuck, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what if she asks more about what Kimberly's up to? And it, like, in my mind, I was like, fuck, like, it seems really fishy that my parents have a kid named Kimberly and a kid named Zimberly, and I, like, was very reluctant to talk about Kimberly. So, like, and then I started to come up with backstories for me and Kimberly, and like why I get so weird when she talks to me about Kimberly. And I was like, well, maybe we're twins, and like we came to college together, and Kimberly graduated a year early, and that's why she's not here right now, is because she graduated a year early and she like went to get her master's in China, because when my professor knew me as a freshman, I was taking Chinese. I would like write down Chinese characters in class, like just to distract myself from the boredom of the art of walking. She was like, oh, are you taking notes in Chinese? And I obviously wasn't. Like, I was in first year Chinese. I knew how to say like, my name is, and like, I am a student. Like, that's what I knew how to write, and that's what I was writing down. But for some reason, like, once again, I lied to her, and I was like, yeah, I am taking notes in Chinese. And she was like, wow, that's like a really good it's like a really good strategy for learning languages. Like, good job. And I was like, let's pat myself on the back. I'm such an academic person. I'm so studious, so duplicitous, such a liar. But I couldn't help myself, okay? I'm sorry. See, like, I'm so sweaty that my makeup has, like, rubbed off and now, like, looks fucking red. But anyway, so I, like, avoid sitting with my professor at language lunch. I'm like, I can't, because she always wants to talk about Kimberly. She's she's like, oh, tell me more about your sisters. And I'm like, I can't, because, like, not only am I lying to her, but I know that everyone else, all of my peers, know that my name is Kimberly. They think it's hilarious that I'm, like, lying to my professor about me having a sister with a name that's, like, one letter off from my name. I know that they could blow my cover anytime they wanted to. They could make me feel so fucking uncomfortable. And so, like, anytime she would bring up Kimberly, I would be like, I have to go, like, get dessert. Like, I'm hungry. So, see you later. I, like, had to put my distance between us. I just could not handle it. There was a part of me that was like, maybe she knows, and this is, like, all a big ploy, and she's seeing how far I take it. But, like, that would be so mean, and, like, she seems so earnest. But, like, maybe that's, like, the German sense of humor. I'm not sure. I almost get away with my big scheme. But then at the end of college, during graduation time, you would have your, like, huge commencement. I went to a really big school. So the commencement took place in the stadium. There were so many people. But there would also be smaller graduations based on, like, what you belonged to, like, what groups you belonged to during your time at college. So one of the groups I belonged to was this liberal arts college within my college. And this woman was associated with the liberal arts college within my college. I had the opportunity to do, like, a little performance at graduation for my liberal arts college within my college. What I did was a fashion show. I have this really beautiful brown dress that I found at a charity shop in London, which is also coincidentally my wedding dress, but I wanted to wear it for graduation because it's just that special. The way it works is they call your name, you get up on stage, you do your shtick, and then you leave the stage. What I did not know is that they were going to announce me by my legal name. So my professor, my German/Art of Walking professor, was in the audience, and she saw that they announced me as Kimberly. And I feel like I can't beat the allegations anymore that Kimberly and Kimberly are actually the same person. And so I'm like, okay, well, I need to avoid her. Like, I need to make sure that I don't talk to her at the reception. You know, we were all mingling. My professor sees me from across the room. She starts walking towards me, and I'm like, she came in through the doors on the opposite side. I'm like 40 feet away from her. She starts walking towards me. The light of recognition is in her eyes. You can tell she wants to say something to me, probably something good-natured, but I'm like, oh no, I don't think I can handle disappointing this professor. I don't think I can handle her telling me that she, like, knows that I've been lying to her this whole time. Like, she probably would have been like, why didn't you tell me that you were the same person this whole time? And I just wouldn't know what to say. I could not handle that level of good-naturedness, so I left. There was a set of doors at the opposite end. What did I do? I waved at my professor. I turned and I left through the opposite side of doors, and then I ran out of the building, and I never saw her again. So that is the story of how my evil twin took over my life. Thank you. And good night. And yeah, so yeah.